Wholesome One, where are you? Hopefully safe and sound. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football, with our Miami show coming live to you each and every Thursday. Presented by, on one hand, from a content perspective, by the Wholesome One. He's here every Thursday. We schedule these for typically at 4 o'clock. He knew he would be a little bit late from work, so he said, Mark, can we back up to 4:30, which we did. I typically jump on right at 4:30, but thought I would wait until we actually had the man of the hour to answer your Hurricanes questions. So from a content perspective, yes, this show brought to you by the Wholesome One. From a classic sponsorship standpoint, I'm going to say this show is brought to you by Ronan and David Knight. Ronan Jones, David Knight. They get the sponsorship entitlement probably today and forever, certainly in the recent past. So, gentlemen, thank you so much. And thank you to a number of people, and you know who you are, that help support the channel in a number of ways. Monetarily, sure, absolutely. We need to do that and to secure that, to build the channel and to build the show. But in any way that you can contribute, share the videos on social media. And certainly, if any of you have direct contact with a Wholesome One, which I do, but the last conversation was yes, in which he wanted to push the show back to 4:30 Eastern time. And I just want to make sure here that he's good. And I'm letting him know. Certainly no rush, no worries whenever you can make it here. All right. So, yes, we thrive and succeed and move on based on your individual contributions, also based on sponsorships and other revenue streams that we are pursuing. So, another thank you to David Knight in regards to some of those pursuits that we're working on. So, thank you so much for that, everyone. And I also wanted to state that here in the next few days, I am going to go live on the Miami channel, and I'm going to respond to viewer comments, specifically to a video that was posted of a conversation clip between myself and Uncle Lou. So we're going to do that. And again, stay in touch. And that's at a time to be determined that we're going to do a Miami live show in just a few days over on the Miami channel, and I'm going to respond to viewer comments. Wholesome One, how are we doing today?
I'm doing good, Mark. Thanks for holding down the fort. Thanks for waiting on me to get home. I truly appreciate it. Thank you.
You are worth the wait.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Don't worry about that. And I want you to know that, whatever you need to do at the workplace and to get home safe and sound, don't bust your tail. Don't do anything you wouldn't do otherwise. We want you here safe and sound. And if it's got to be 5 or 10 minutes later than it would be, no worries, no problem there. But you are well worth the wait. So just go on here live just a couple minutes ago to let everyone know that we are here to talk Miami football. And interesting, whether it be because he's got a baseball background, because his father won a national championship in college football, for a number of reasons, a very interesting commit to the Miami Hurricanes yesterday, and one Kaden Martin from Knoxville Catholic.
It's different, Mark. Of course, we're happy about it, but there seems to be this back and forth. Is he football? Is he baseball? He is the number one prospect in the state of Tennessee for baseball, and I think he's like top 25 for the upcoming draft in baseball. So, hey, it's kind of similar to A-Rod, Alex Rodriguez, who wanted to go to Miami so bad. I believe he was committed to Miami at a point, and then the major leagues called. And why not take that opportunity? Went on to have a historic Hall of Fame career, and still loves and gives back to the institution that he would have played at least a semester at. But when it comes to Martin, man, to be honest with you, I'm so excited because this type of prospect is something Miami has never truly had. I've seen people do the comparison to Malik Rozier, and it's like, please stop. Delete that out of your mind. This is not what we're bringing in. He's way closer to Russell Wilson than he ever will be to Malik Rozier. And much love to Malik Rozier for the 10-3. We thank you for that. But I want, like I've said for years on your show, Mark, I want these young men to be there. I don't want to compare him to anyone else. Based on the film that I've seen, I do think that a Russell Wilson comparison is great. He's a lefty too, though. So it's a little different in the trajectory of the ball, and how the spiral is a little opposite. And it's all good, but he's deadly accurate, which comes from that. He has a nice cannon, okay, but he's also super humble. You know how when you listen to somebody, and Colin Cowherd says this, like people being like presidential and then quarterbackial is a word he created. When you listen to certain people speak, you hear the leadership, you hear the calmness, you hear the maturity, you hear the young man in this high school prospect coming out in the way that they speak. And T. Martin and his parents and his wife or whoever he's with, they did a great job in building this young man, Kaden. Now, I think that it's a blessing to have him commit to the University of Miami. And if he ever does put on our uniform, if he ever does suit up for the Kings, we'll be rooting hard for him. I think he would be probably the best QB on the roster right now. And he would be our best baseball player on the roster there too. So he's big time. I don't know if he'll ever come to Miami as far as play there, but if he does, I'm rooting for him.
There was a bit of a discrepancy, and this isn't unusual, between the three major services when I broke them down last night and looked at them, because the first evaluation that I saw, just a strict numbers evaluation, was number 7 overall dual threat quarterback. Mm-hmm. And that was from the composite. Right. And then I saw 247 Sports had him at 21st. So from number 7 to number 21, I thought, man, he's got to be really highly rated by the other two. I went to ESPN. They only had him at number 11. So I thought, my goodness, I went to Rivals. They had him as the 4th best dual threat quarterback in the country.
It's kind of a wide spectrum. The biggest thing that I've noticed in these evaluations is, number one, you look at someone's highlight tape and you're kind of looking at their best plays. But at the same time, I kind of do take all three. I don't really do Rivals as much, but definitely 247 and ESPN. And I feel like the truth is somewhere in the middle between them. And it's what they're really looking for. I think dual threat QBs on ESPN don't always get the same love as a true pocket passer. And I wish that they had a category of balanced and dual threat and then pocket passer. If we can get somebody who, if they can find a way to put a prospect in the middle. Because in my opinion, look at a guy like Trevor Lawrence, Sunshine is balanced. Because guess what? He's just as good as diming you as he is taking off on you for 80 yards. Just like Justin Fields. Justin Fields can take off on you just as easy as he can throw the ball. Now, you look at a guy like Lamar Jackson, yes, dual threat. He's a scrambler. He leans that way. But there's plenty of prospects who are growing up in today's college football that in high school football, where balanced is really where you want to be. You can go get me. Joe Burrow can go get me. I think he had like 500 yards rushing that season. You wouldn't know it because all he did was just take off and get 8 yards here, 10 yards there, 12 yards here, 20 yards there. He'll have a rushing touchdown on a QB sneak. So he had plenty of those. But then there was also your Tim Tebow's and your Cam Newtons who, yeah, they're balanced, but they lean more on the rushing side of things. So if any one of them could create it, or Mark, you know how you talk about the vision? We need to get a Mark Rogers recruiting. Okay, we need that. We need that done right now. Okay, Rogers recruiting. I love it right there. R&R. That's right there, Mark. That's it. That's right there. MR recruiting.
I love that too. And this is why. I am not saying that I would be doing the evaluations. No. Mm-hmm. I watch football and all that business, but I am not in the business of evaluating players. It's good in life to know what you don't know and to know your limitations. So I would know enough to know, yes, surround myself with the experts. Would love to have you on board. Would love to have others on board to do the evaluations. I would love to structure it. I would love to come up with different ways of categorizing, just like you mentioned with the quarterbacks. I've thought the same thing since this dual threat category was implemented. Initially, absolutely, there has to be some kind of distinction made, but there's an automatic thought that, okay, this guy's a run first guy. And that's not necessarily the case, especially anymore, where there needs to be some type of you had a good term given to it. What was it? What did you go with? Balance?
Balance.
Yes.
What do you mean? I just said balance. So you got your scrambler, you got your
exactly.
Yeah, you got balance, you got pocket passing, because it's like I said, the term I use usually is modern day QB. Obviously, I look at it like old school, modern day, futuristic, kind of how I look at it. But if you're modern, then you're probably more being able to run if you can, because obviously any quarterback coach, any offense would love a QB on first or second down who can take off and get you 8 or 9 yards just as easy as you can sit back and throw 30 and go 10 for 10 on the next drive. And the stigma that's attached to it, I'm glad it's going to wane away, because people understand now, regardless of geographically where the QB is from, regardless of their makeup, regardless of any of those type of things, you can have a QB that can get you 6, 7, 8, get you 15, get you 10, and still go, 12 of 18 for 200 yards and 2 TDs in both ways. It's just how the game is starting to be played and coached. And now you're getting athletes who are also learning the QB position at a high level. I mean, Mark, you go as young as 6, 7 years old with QB camps now. So I could only imagine how the late 2020s and 2030s are going to be. The game is just changing on a completely different level.
Folks, as I say this all the time, especially when we're in the off season and not during a prime time of the year that we'll get to here in just a few weeks with spring football, and then of course during recruiting season, and especially during the actual season, this is the time that you have more control over the show. That at any point you leave your comments, your questions, we will get those to the Wholesome One. In the meantime, I'm going to be scanning the channel for comments that have come in over the week, and that's what I'm getting to right now. I don't know why I get amused by certain people. I have no idea who this individual is, but Dominic Bullock here, I think this was in response to me asking and just letting people know that it's within the viewership of this channel and within our show that you guys make this go. And this person letting me know that they only support Uncle Lou. I don't know why I find that interesting that they would come on here. So, it's a free internet. It's all free online. You can go wherever you want and watch your content. Sasha, thank you so much for the super chat contribution. We appreciate that. Sasha's contributed here recently, and Sasha, we thank you so much. A little tongue in cheek there, thinking that maybe with the left-handed quarterback, the spin on the ball would help the wide receivers hang on to it. Sasha there.
We just need to stop throwing to certain people until they get their stuff in order. It's just that simple. Once we get and a couple videos have come out with the young men. Everyone looks real nice, man. But I want to see it happen, and I wish the best for them. But 6 and 8 got a long way to go, man. A long way to go.
Absolutely. So we got the Wholesome One here for the next however long we can hang on to him here for roughly an hour to talk Miami football. And of course, we are just about 2 weeks away from spring practice, right?
Yes.
Just about 2 weeks away.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard anything about any kind of access? Because I know that the guys that I talk to, that are the beat writers, the beat reporters that are out there every day or used to be, they just say now with this pandemic especially, but even before that it's becoming less and less accessible to get to practice, be able to stay on the field for any reasonable amount of time. They see the guys stretch and warm up. What does that tell you? Next to nothing. And just difficult to get information out of spring practice these days.
I've always felt like, Mark, what's the point of being so secretive? I've never got that. I know when Al Foden got here a decade ago, one of the things he took away from us was Rising Canes. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to watch that, but it was a documentary, kind of like how, what was that thing called? Hard Knocks. Every day it would be you would have a specific player who had their chance, and you went day by day with camp. You followed them all. They were mic'd up. You followed them all the way through. You even had your games, so they would have cameras around the players before, and then they also have them zoomed in during the game. You go from the game to post game and how the locker room was, whether it was angry or excited. They also had them being videoed on the bus and the bus ride back to campus. Like Rising Canes was so futuristic in its way, and it had that connection between the players and the fans. But then Al Foden comes in and he swears up and down that this is a distraction to his team, and that's the reason why they're going 7-6 and 6-6 and 7-5 is because he did not like Rising Canes at all. And the funny part about it is Mark Richt is the one who gets the flack for it, but Al Golden was the one who went to them towards the end and throughout his whole time complained about it, and then they eventually just pulled it away. So that's what happened. That's the biggest issue with Rising Canes.
This struck me just a couple minutes ago because every so often you'll throw out a nickname that I'm not familiar with. And I thought, I'm going to ask the wholesome one, what are some of your favorite nicknames in football? Especially with within the Canes.
Well, of course, you got my personal one with Santana, with my family connection. Tanner Man, that was cool. Even though you forgot about him with most players, best players to wear number 6. It's okay, Mark. I forgive you.
That was like the worst thing I've ever done to you. I think that was it.
Yeah.
You were sorely disappointed in me.
Light Skin Warrior from Bubba Bolden, from yours truly. That was crazy, man. It was something that
it took on a life of its own.
And it took off, man. It took off. People, I've talked to Bubba about it, and people would be like, he's like, man, yeah, people comment under my Instagram, Light Skin Warrior, and it's just like, whoa, where did this come from? It kind of blew up on it. Nasty Nesta is a big one too. I don't know if I could take credit for that one. I know I called him that, but I can't really say if I took credit for that one. I mean, you got the Ball Hawk and Edward Reed. That was real big. Then you got the GOAT, Sean Taylor. I don't know if that's obviously we didn't create it, but that's who we call, the GOAT. Our defensive tackle. Ooh, last name Brown, 98. I want to say
Jerome Brown.
J Money. That was his nickname, and I only learned that when it came from Shannon Sharp on his show, and when he spoke to Warren Sapp. Any other ones? The President, Denzel Perriman. They called him the President, number 52. That was big. Any other big nicknames? I mean, Neo was John Garvin, but that didn't really take to the fans as much. But yeah, that's probably Thriller from Michael Jackson, the corner from the 2017 season. Called him Thriller, but he had that one good season. It's not like real Michael where he had decades and decades of hits. This guy had one season and then fell apart. Too Slow. You bet you can guess who Too Slow was.
Too Slow, I'm guessing, is going to be somebody who was really, really fast.
No?
Mm-mm. Too slow.
Too slow for a middle linebacker. Recent middle linebacker.
Oh, Shaq?
Yeah. Too slow. Then you had Sugar Ray. Yeah, Frank from Ray Lewis. Sugar Ray. Bruh Man is a nickname that Tracy Howard had for his whole entire life. We called him Bruh Man. I think that's about it, man. I don't know any other guys like that. I mean, I guess Duke for Randy Johnson. His name is Randy. If people don't know that, called him Duke, and it just stuck. Randall Thrill Hill. Yeah, thank you, OG Kane. My bad. That's something that should have been the first one. Randall Thrill Hill. Yeah. Oh, you got the playmaker, Michael Irvin.
Yeah.
But see, I think that was more of his Cowboy days, right?
I think so. That's when I came across it, but that doesn't mean he wasn't that before. I couldn't say for sure.
True. true. And I was decades away from being born when he was playing. So I don't know.
No, I remember him in college. Yeah. I
Wow.
got a few years
So
going back.
let me ask you, Art, as someone who has watched so much college ball, and when you talk about the Canes, you know how some people had these great teams, and you only knew maybe one or two guys. It seemed like the Canes just had all these. It was players, but they were also part of these historic teams. But you knew the players, you know. So what was it like for someone like you, who I don't know if you were a fan or not a fan to a certain extent, maybe just like watching them play. I don't know if you were down for the whole crotch chop and jumping up and down. You don't take me as a guy who was too in love with that style of play and in your face, and it's nothing that you can do about it, you know. So so for you, what was it like? You know, like, was it a team full of people that you knew their faces, you knew their names? Well, maybe not faces back then, but you knew their names, or was it just like the historic teams, kind of like Nebraska, where you knew they had a great team?
Well, before we get to, let's say, the late 80s, when there was really that influx of just overwhelming talent, layers after layers after layers, it first happened with Florida State to a certain extent, and then Miami a couple of years later, where I'm kind of, and this might be surprising to some people, I have a couple of people close to me that consider me kind of obsessive compulsive slightly, because when I like something, then, you know, I didn't grow up in a sports family, football family. And so I wasn't brought up that way. Brother, dad didn't bring me up to watch a ton of football and play football. I had to get around, you know, boys in the neighborhood. And then I just started playing backyard football. And, you know, I remember playing backyard football when I first started, just, you know, playing at 7, 8 years old. And if they said, let's blitz, I didn't know what a blitz was. I was like, I was the only one. And I was too afraid to say, I don't know what a blitz is. But by the time it rolled around like a year later, then I'm trying out for the football team. I'm watching constantly. I'm reading constantly. I just full throttle, like all the time. And that's how I am. Mm-hmm. So once that 1978 college football season hit, like I'm watching, like I'm an NFL junkie. I'm a college football junkie. I know rosters. I know everything. Mm-hmm. I'm memorizing stats. I'm watching constantly. And Miami was non-existent. Florida State were non-existent. You know, and what you learned was, especially growing up in Ohio, but you could anywhere, it's going to be Ohio State and Michigan and Alabama and Notre Dame, and to a certain extent, the same teams that are still traditionally, you know, USC and all those teams, Nebraska, were great. Oklahoma. And I remember Florida State making an Orange Bowl in 1979. And it was like, people were like, who's this? Like, who are they? Like, how did Florida State make it to the Orange Bowl? And then that was the same response to Miami a few years later in 83. And I remember watching Bernie Kosar's very first game in college, playing Florida, and they lost 28-3. That was the opener. And then they went on this ridiculous run, won 10 straight games. And people that weren't like totally focused on college football, just your everyday sports fans that watch the big games, people were like, why is Miami in the Orange Bowl? Like, who are they? Like, they don't belong here. Like, it was this totally foreign, like, they're not one of the, you know, the in crowd to be playing. Yeah, they're not supposed to be here. Why are they here? And then just to watch their style of play, because at that time, the NFL was not copying from college football. College football was copying from the NFL. So like in the late 70s is when the NFL started to become a passing league. So then some programs started to become that in college football, but not many 3, 4, 5 years later. Well, that's Miami. That's BYU. Those were the two at the forefront. And so to watch a team play like that, split out like 4 wides and throw the ball 30 or 35 times was like, wow, this is kind of cool. This is crazy. And look at how good they are throwing the ball, because you would have these triple option quarterbacks at Oklahoma, and they throw the ball 4 times a game. And some of these, you know, it was ugly, to go back and watch them try to complete downfield passes is just so, and to see these guys that could actually like run that offense and throw it on time and anticipate routes and throw it like those NFL quarterbacks, soon to be NFL quarterbacks, Jim Kelly, Bernie Kosar, and Vinny Testaverde right after him was pretty amazing. And then
the sad part for me, Mark, is to watch the uniforms. I'm like, y'all had to play in baggy jerseys. I mean, the pads I love. I wore neck roll for years. So I was old school in that point. I wore tape on my fingers, but I was a lineman, so it was a little different. You look at the QB, his pads are this big, his jersey's dangling like a 4X jersey, and it's just weird, man. But I understand it because I also have conversations with people, and they're like, especially old folk, they just so stuck in their ways, or old school thinking people are like, oh, what's wrong with the game is the shields. You guys got glasses on. How are you gonna play a game? You got a shield in your face mask. Some coaches wouldn't let us wear visors and shields. However you guys want to turn it. You know what's wrong? Why people can't catch? Gloves. Supposed to be pure hands. What? You know what? When everyone's soft, everyone has on tights. It's called style. It's called fashion. Like, I don't care if the team goes out there and everyone wears either all white or Miami wears all white or all orange. That's the only two uniforms they wear. I mean, it would make me angry because I don't think that's the way that you should do it, But this whole original and old school mindset, people. Alabama wears 2 uniforms, home and away. Look at Oregon; they have 10,000 with zero national championships. There's a lot more to it than just the uniform. It's weird, man. Like I told you, Mark, I've had debates with people who swear the University of Miami won't be back until we wear black cleats and black socks. It's just dumb. It doesn't make any sense.
Miami at times was so good that they were scary. And I wouldn't have said this at the time because I had too much pride as an Ohio State fan that, who were these guys to be that good? But I remember them coming out in the 1988 opener, because that would have been Deion Sanders' last season in college.
After we won the Natty and they gave them the number 1 AP poll.
Florida State was like consensus number 1. And it might have been a Monday night game because I remember it was all set aside by itself. It might have been a Labor Day night game and it was on CBS. And it's not like Florida State was garbage. They went on to, I think that was probably their only loss and finished in the top 4 in the country. So they were extremely good. But to watch those two teams on the field, like everybody was geared up to watch this amazing game. This is going to be a 35-31 game.
And we shellacked them.
Oh, it was like 2 different levels of football. And it was just astonishing, the difference between the two teams. 31-0. It was.
That's how it's supposed to be, Mark. Just like that.
There was such little respect given to Miami that it took so many years of dominance for Vegas and for people to actually, those Orange Bowls that they would play against Nebraska, and the first couple were against Oklahoma. Then they played Nebraska twice. They won those 2 games against the Huskers, 22-0 and 23-3. Like, Nebraska was tough enough on defense to like hang and be okay and only give up 22, 23 points. They played respectable defense, but their offense could do nothing against Miami's defense. Nothing. But those Oklahoma teams, they would go into those games, and I'm like 14, 15 years old, and I know enough and I've seen enough that we'd be approaching those games, and all the talk was Oklahoma's going to put them in their place. Oklahoma's number 1, and they would be like a touchdown favorite, and I would be like, this game is not going to be close.
I mean,
just for the simple fact that how can a team be that one-dimensional and just run this option play I know that they do it remarkably well, but I'm like, Miami's going to be able to, they've got an NFL defensive line and linebackers. They're going to be all over this thing, and you've got no threat to throw the ball behind them. How in the world?
Mark, one thing about back then that we understood was speed. Obviously, over the last 10 years, that's kind of been, pushed out of our program for some ungodly reason. Yes, you need to be more balanced. You have to be able to do both in today's football. But, like I've always said, Butch Davis and his predecessors, they understood. I can identify a big middle linebacker and make him an all-pro defensive end. Ed Orgeron was able to take Warren Sapp, who was a tight end outside linebacker, and make him one of the greatest defensive tackles to have ever played the game. And he saw that back then and told him, you will be a Hall of Famer. You come play defensive tackle for me. But no. You got 6 foot, 3-4 safeties who can't cover, and we leave them back there. But that's I'm just a big dude living in Fargo. I don't know nothing. I don't understand the game. I'm just a guy.
I can talk football history forever. We're going to bring it back to, and I appreciate you giving me a little bit of a platform to do just that. But we'll bring it back up to 2021. I'll say it like this, Wholesome One. Is it going to be just strictly a record that is going to either meet your expectations or fail to meet your expectations? Or is it going to be, let's start with that, but I want to see how well they play against A, B, and C and see if I see progress in these different areas? Or is it just going to be flat out, I want 10-2?
That's a great question, because it can go one or two ways. I look at last year, and I actually took that approach last season because I thought it was a rebuilding year. I genuinely was like, okay, I don't see us making the playoffs. Like, I don't see us going on a really long run here. I want to just see how it looks. But then I understood that they took that a win's a win and ran with it, to where you have these horrifically close games for no apparent reason. You lose momentum. Everybody leans back, it's a COVID year. Okay, it was a COVID year for everyone. We can't keep using that as an excuse for what we saw in that football field in certain games. Okay, the unpreparedness, them not executing, not tackling, not catching the football, all right? Not knowing the game plan and not executing, not being able to make adjustments, all those type of things. So yes, a record will tell me something, all right? But I want to see us dominate teams. If you were to say one thing has to happen this year, Mark, win the ACC Coastal. It's just like that. Win the Coastal. Here's why I say that, Mark. In the maturation of a lot of teams, there's these hurdles, loops, ladders, however you want to say. All right. Let's take the Clemson Tigers, since every Miami Hurricanes fan swears that Coach Manny Diaz is Dabo Sweeney. Okay, right. I've studied that program for a while because it was a team that, A, was rivals with the team I hate the most on this planet. So I like that. And I like the way that they played. Their colors are kind of cool. They're orange and white. They also had like these elite defensive lines for a long time. And I actually watched them in person play Joey Bosa in the Ohio State in that 2014 Orange Bowl. What a great game. And what great talent to all be on the field at the same time. So, looking back 6, 7 years ago, jeez. Oh, I'm getting up there. Anyway.
You're talking to the wrong guy to be saying that.
Clemson had these hurdles. What, if you could, in your mind, what would be a couple of the hurdles you would say, the first hurdle for them to start really becoming an elite program, in your opinion? What would you say was the move?
Wow, that's a great question. I think most elite. Here's the one position that I think there are less teams in the country, the least amount of teams that are exceptional at this position. Mm-hmm. And this may not be their next step, but this will be a step that will be key, will be having an offensive line that is stout.
Okay. All right. I think that's huge because Miami did have a big time QB in Bradley Kaya, fourth QB in the country. He breaks all these records and did nothing but go down, and then did six round draft pick. But what I mean by, I'll make my point and then I'll ask you about it. So here's what I'm saying. I would say a couple of those hurdles. Number one, they had to take care of home, South Carolina. They could not get over South Carolina. What happened? The old ball coach starts to wane out of college football and get over that hump.
I'm sorry, Wholesome. When you were asking me about Clemson, when they emerged. Oh, okay. I thought you were asking about
Miami's
what I'm looking at for Miami to improve. Okay, I got you. Yeah, South Carolina beat them 5 consecutive years. Yeah, absolutely.
They got over that hump.
Yep.
The next hump, even when they got over that SEC hump, the other one was the one team that stood in front of them, and that was those Tallahassee people. They would get to the end of the year, beat Clemson, beat South Carolina. They would, of course, have Clemson, but that comes later on, right? So you have the first hurdle was taking care of home and winning the state of South Carolina. Number one, they beat them on the football field. But two, they started running recruiting in South Carolina and dipping into North Carolina, right? That's the first hurdle. The next step was getting over that team that was a thorn in their side. They'll be 10-1, 9-2 or whatever when they got to that game and couldn't get over the hump and beat these people to go to the ACC championship game. But they did. So you took care of home first. Local recruiting, local play, right? The next hump was being able to, you beat everyone else in the Atlantic, but you couldn't beat this one team. You get over that hump. So now, of course, winning the championship, things of that nature. But what was that other hurdle they had to get to? Elite recruiting. Okay. They had this mindset at Clemson of development. That was their thing. We don't want the big 4 or 5-star guys. We want people who really want to be here, who believe in what we're going to do, who's a Clemson guy, and we will coach you up to the absolute best. But they had to handle stuff in their local area. They had to take care of the one team they couldn't get over. And then the next thing they had to do was match their great development, match their winning locally, match their winning conference-wise with elite recruiting, win a national championship when they put it all together. Tie it to Miami. What's the first hurdle? Beating those punks in Tallahassee. We've done it for 4 years. That was our hurdle, winning locally. Florida, they're in a different conference. They're going to get young men who are going to go there because their shirt says SEC. We play each other once every 5, 6, 10 years, whatever. I'm tired of dealing with them. They're no longer in our conversation. All right, that's something we got to get over as Kansas fans. They don't want to deal with us, kick rocks. We'll deal with it, all right? We've got over that first hurdle. That next hurdle is being able to win your conference. Beat those teams that you can't get over. Beat the Georgia Techs, who were 2-0 against us, and some of their worst teams. Okay, beat the North Carolinas, who, if we don't get our stuff together with this new player likeness thing, Atlanta's a great hub, and North Carolina Tar Heel Blue always looks amazing. Those two places will be destinations to be if Miami does not get their crap in order. And even if they do, they'll still get a nice crop of the country to go to those two places, right? So that's our second hurdle. We've handled the people at the bottom. Locally, Miami is one of the best in the state. They're either number 1 or number 2, according to high school coaches in the state. That doesn't mean that you just give up on Tallahassee and not prepare for them as hard as humanly possible. But we've kind of gotten over that. Let's go to the next step. Let's win this Coastal consistently. Okay, what I mean by that is being 2-0 over the next 2 years, 2021 and 2022. If you can tell the next recruiting class of 2023 that the young men in this locker room have not lost a Coastal game. Now, recruiting nationally and bringing in a number 1 overall recruit, winning the ACC, that's a step higher than where we are right now. Understand where we are. Understand the importance of this level that we're in. We need to be able to handle the Coastal on a consistent basis. And it's mainly because we're going up against young men who maybe aren't as talented. North Carolina, yes, they're just as talented as us. But they're doing things at such a high level. They got such great development. They're older players. We have to add that with the talent that we have and win consistently. Install the fear of the Miami Hurricanes back into the ACC Coastal, because they don't fear us. Duke understands that they may or may not lose, but they're not scared of us. North Carolina could give a crap less about Miami. Georgia Tech, on their worst seasons, have beaten Miami. They don't care about us. We got to get that on the other side of things, okay? You just like we did with Tallahassee, they went 7 straight. That's almost 2 whole recruiting cycles, Park. And we needed a miracle to break the streak, but we did. Now we got to go on our own run. So I think we're at that second pillar. We need to be able to dominate that pillar over the next couple of years. Then I can see 2024, you start taking that next step of let's win the ACC. Let's win a huge recruiting battle versus Alabama for the #1 offensive tackle in the country. Let's win for the best 6'5" defensive tackle in the country versus Georgia. Those are a little years away from where we are right now as a program.
I love what you did there for a number of reasons, because you made the analogy and you took one of the gold standards currently, Clemson, and you stacked it right up against what Miami could next do that would be in line with what Clemson did. You didn't go to Alabama. You didn't go to Ohio State, because we'd have to go back decades to figure out, okay, because it's been going on forever, right. Or it's tied to a Nick Saban who's won national championships, and Dabo Swinney was a nobody. So that's how they did it. And yeah, to see that transition from what you were talking about with Florida State being that last hurdle in the ACC, and for 3 to 4 years there, that was the game in the ACC. That was the one that was like, okay, it doesn't matter who wins the Coastal. It matters who wins the Florida State Clemson game. And everybody was watching October 20th or whatever the date was. Boom, circle it. Whoever wins it. And Clemson kept running into Florida State. Couldn't push through them. And then you saw that transition. And 2015 was the year, obviously. Clemson got it done, went on to the national championship game. But Florida State was still right there. So those 2015 and 16 games were just epic.
Amazing to watch. Man.
Because that's when the transition was happening.
Yep.
And then they broke through. And even in 2017, for as bad as you would say Tallahassee was, Florida State, they still gave Clemson a really good game because they still had that kind of talent to hang.
But think about this, Mark. What does it do for the psyche of a young man to when they see that logo, they see that team on the other side of the field, there is no fear. That we had that problem with Tallahassee too. We had the miracle in 17. When they came down, they were up 27-7 before you could blink. Because guess what? Psychologically, they're like, yeah, well, eventually y'all had to get one, and it took a Hail Mary throw up to a 6'5" dude. All right, y'all got one. Cool. Let me show y'all what it's really like. And then you saw the tide change in that game. We're like, no, we're going to keep fighting. This is different now. Okay, cool. They ended up falling back. We had a crazy comeback, down by 20, come back and win by 4. Okay, boom. So that's 2. Then you go to 2019. They are atrocious. We're average looking, average to below average type of team at the time. What happens? Miami wins 31-17 in a game that looked, the score said one thing, but the game was different. I mean, Greg Rousseau took it over and embarrassed them for the most part, but it wasn't a blowout. Why? Because there were still young men on that team who knew what it was like to beat down on Miami as their senior year, but they lost it in. Now, this year came, and not a single player on that team beat Miami. So it was different. That psyche was different. The way that they had to talk it up is different. They got to call players from the league to try to come tell them what it's like to beat Miami. Not the seniors get up and talk in front of the team about what it's like to beat Miami. And then we stomp them in the ground. So what's going to happen next year? They're going to have a full team, full staff that does not know what it's like, what it takes, what it looks like to beat the University of Miami in a football game. So psychologically, they're going to be a dog in the corner. They're going to come out swinging, maybe even doing personal fouls, whatever, because they know for a fact, dog, I don't know what I got. I don't know what I should do. I give them my best shot. They keep getting up. And for us, the flip side of that, you have to battle being complacent, being comfortable, because you've never lost to them. You got to remember how the importance of that game goes. So that's how rivalry football goes, man. It's a huge psychological battle before you even touch the football field and the preparation for when you're dealing with young men from the ages of 18 to 22.
And I won't get into it too deep, but psychology, as soon as you said psychology in rivalry games, I thought of Ohio State, Michigan. And it's one of the reasons that even though Ohio State doesn't beat other teams that aren't even close to Michigan as badly as they beat Michigan, they've had such an edge on Michigan. They've just trampled them recently.
Those are one of the games that, as someone who was raised in the most southern you can be in the country, in Miami next to the Keys, it was sad, man. It's sad to be able, like, Denard Robinson was one of my favorite players because he's from South Florida, kind of like Central Florida area, and nobody in the Big Three wanted to give him a chance. We all wanted him as a running back, wide receiver type, which is what he turned out to be in the National Football League. So obviously we saw something that other teams didn't want to see. But, Rich Rod had that type of offense where he could thrive. He goes to Michigan. He's the last QB to beat the Ohio State. And even that game was kind of like, it was kind of close. It was a historically really good game. That year he beat Notre Dame in a great classic night game. Was the first 8 p.m. ABC kickoff in the big house in school history. And that, I remember sitting down and watching that as a freshman in high school, like, this is history, and they both wore these throwback unis, no last names on the back, and Notre Dame came out in white, green, and gold. Even the referees wore fedoras, like old school referee type. So it was kind of funny to watch that. Wow, my memory is just crazy like that. But
it is crazy like that, because I watched every play of that game too, but I wouldn't have come up with the referees wearing the fedoras. But as soon as you said that, I thought, yeah, that's right. That happened.
Yep. So I say that to say, but think about the completely different mindset of both those teams. It's been, after they beat them this year, which they will, it'll be 10 years. 2011 was the last time. So 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 10 years. Mark, listen, I would have to give up if those punks beat us 10 years straight. They were close. 7 is real close to 10. But woo!
They beat them 6 straight before that game. So they've won 16 out of 17.
How is that a rivalry?
And this is not an excuse for the one loss, but I think it should be noted that was the interim head coach year, Luke Fickell, between Jim Tressel and Urban Meyer. So that was
the year he lost to Miami.
Yeah. They lost 7 games that year. That was a really down season. That's when they lost Terrell Pryor and they lost 5 offensive starters for
Braxton Miller was a true freshman. I was at that game too. So I remember hearing about this number 5 dude who wears gloves. And it's like, if you see him in the game, get scared. And whenever he did get in the game, he kept giving you guys a chance, but then they kept trying to push that super senior dude. And I mean, even how when you watch certain teams, you expect them when they come out on warm-ups.
You're talking about Braxton Miller. Yeah.
Yeah, Braxton Miller.
Yeah.
Even the Ohio State O-line didn't look like the Ohio State. You could tell that was a rebuilding year. They had a couple. Shazier was a freshman on that team, and he's from Miami. He played at Miami Pace, so a couple of us knew him or knew of him. So he was somebody to watch. He was a standout in that game. And of course, Braxton Miller was a huge standout in that game. Like I said, we could go down memory lane all day. I got free reign. I could be here for an hour plus. I don't care. I'm just talking today.
You're starving to death. Well, we're not going to let that happen. But I'm going to mention these super chat contributions. Sasha, we mentioned that. Appreciate that. BGPO Football Funk wants to know if Miami can beat Clemson this year. We'll get to Wholesome One's response in just a second. Mike Williams, thank you so much for the super chat contribution. Appreciate that. And Miami Flow, I will get yours posted here in just a second. Thank you so much. You know what, this guy, he's a Clemson fan, so he's just poking the bear. He just wants to throw that out there.
I think everyone who's watching this knows the answer to this question. But number one, I would want us to have an opportunity to share the field. How about we handle our business and get on the football field with you all and see? Obviously, if you look at the two programs, we're on two different levels. You guys are up there with like Georgia and Bama, and like Ohio State. Like it's different tiers, you know. Like we're tier 3, tier 4. Clemson is tier 1. Like the only other team that's better than them in the last decade is Alabama, a team they've also beaten twice in the Natty game. It's not really much of a conversation, you know, and that's not me having to kiss their behind. It's just truly understanding what I'm watching and appreciating the program that Coach Dabo Sweeney, Coach Venables, and Coach Elliott, the team that they have built up there in Clemson, South Carolina. We would love, like I spoke about last time when Georgia came up, Miami would love to have the stability, the money funding, the players that have walked through the halls at Georgia, Clemson, Bama. We haven't had those young men. So we got a lot of our own issues to fix. And over the next 5 to 10 years, I think we'll be doing that. And hopefully the mid-2020s and late 2020s, you'll be talking about the Canes being tier 2 to tier 1. But as of right now, we're a tier 3, tier 4 team, trying to get our own ish together to put out a great product on the field consistently at a high level.
And you know the reason I asked that previous question the way I did, to whether your expectations were set solely on a record and saying, boom, 10-2 is the expectation, and I'm just throwing out that record, 10-2, 9-3 won't meet it, versus is there going to be a whole lot of other factors, is because when you do look at the Coastal Division and what it's been for all these years, we see teams that have gone 7-5, 8-4 consistently win that division, and you may be able to muddle through that. And let's say you go 8-4 and you lose 2 or 3 games that you shouldn't lose, that you're not real happy about, but the rest of the divisions kind of, let's say North Carolina doesn't come through like many people think they will, and so you limp into that ACC championship game at 8-4 and get curb stomped, and you're 8-5. You did win the Coastal, but it could have been a situation where on the flip side, let's say North Carolina just shoots up and they really become a really legit top 10 team this year. You guys play them really well. It's a great game. You lose the Coastal. They go 11-1. Let's say you go 10-2, that being a more satisfying season in some ways than actually winning the Coastal when everybody's just kind of like they've been.
Which is why I always, because record could say one thing. I mean, as much as I love the 2017 team, I came on here and told you, in my opinion, either the 2014 or the 2013 team was better. And the 2014 team went 6-6, but they had 8 NFL draft picks on that 2014 team. 8. Okay. Denzel Perryman, 50th overall. Duke Johnson, 72nd overall. Anthony Chickalo, Artie Burns was 2015. Let me go back. Brad Kaya in the 6th round. Philip Dorsett, 1st round draft pick. Eric Flowers, 1st round draft pick. Okay, we had talent on that team. NFL guys who are still playing to this day. Clyde Walford still playing to this day on the teams that drafted them from the University of Miami in the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd round. You know, we had somebody drafted all 3 days, and we had 2 on the 1st night. Okay, on that team. So scheduling says one thing. You know, the number says one thing, but there's always context to it. You look at 2017, Mark. We went 10-3. When it was rolling and it was good, it looked like one of the best teams in college football. Okay, everybody, again, Notre Dame game. Even you were on here like, it was speechless. No one saw that coming. And it was in your face. It was raw. It had the chain on. It got thrown up to 305. It was big time. And then the very next week, you turn on ESPN, and like 3 minutes into the game, Miami, who just blew out Notre Dame, is down 17-0 to Virginia. You know?
I remember it. Yep.
Yeah. And then had to have a 21-point comeback to beat them. You know? So it goes to tell you there's context to it. The eye on the sky, you know, when you turn in and when you really study these programs, what's going on in them. And that consistent level of playing at the highest, because everyone's not going to be 100 percentile every single time. Give me that 85. Give me that 80. Like on your worst day, are you giving me an 80? Or on your worst day, are you giving me a 75, 60? All right, when we grade things out. Or at your best day, you're a 90, 95, but at your worst day, you're an 80, 77, somewhere in there. So it's still well above average. It's still well above failure, and you're playing at a pretty solid level. You're still above average even when you're at your absolute worst. Or is that your best? Is 80 your absolute best? And then reality is somewhere in between that. So you're really like a 70, 73. But when you play your best, you're at an 80. Then when you play your worst, you're failing. You get what I'm saying? That's where I want to see this program at. There's context to every single thing. When can we get a team who, when the whistle is blown, the guy in the all red with the ESPN suit steps off of the football field because he has his hand up for the commercial breaks, and he puts his hand down and he steps to the side to let everyone know at Hard Rock Stadium the cameras are on, the ball's about to be kicked off. When can I know from that point all the way to when the clock has 3 or 4, depending on which digital marker you use, zeros on it, that this team played at a high level for 60 plus minutes? And I'm not saying we have to be Wisconsin where everything is stern and the O-line is this and the D-line is that and the linebackers are this and no one has any individuality. You just do your job and go home. I'm not saying we have to be that. But there's a certain standard of consistency at the University of Miami that I would like to see. And I don't know if I've seen those seeds planted. I don't know yet. But I have to be able to know for a fact when I turn on the Miami Hurricanes game, there's going to be a couple things that I see. Team that's playing hard, team that knows what they're supposed to be doing. Not only know your game plan, but know the other team's game plan. Okay? Coaches on the sideline who are supposed to be here, who are qualified to be here, and young men on our football field who are supposed to be here and who are really qualified to be Miami Hurricanes. Right? Some of the things I want to see. Speed is on there too. I want to see a faster team. You know, Mark Rick, the first thing he walked in and said, Mark, where are the linemen and where's the speed? You know, and that team went 9-4 and 10-3. You know, but he's coming from Georgia where things were just completely different for a program. So it's a lot, man. It's a lot, but it's fixable.
Miami Flow. Appreciate it, man. Always appreciate it. Let's go. Maybe I added an extra O there. I don't know. Love the show. Go Canes. Got a question coming in here from Anthony Manzano about the NFL draft and looking at Gregory Russo's evaluation versus Jalen Phillips. Or maybe that was another question.
Yeah, I saw
well,
the other
comparing those two as well. So what Manzano's got here is Russo, do you agree with the professional evaluation in the NFL that he's more of an interior defensive lineman instead of a pass rusher on the edge?
In my evaluation of Greg Rousseau, it's been kind of hit or miss on both sides. I think he has the ability to. He's been with Coach Chuck Smith, who's one of the big pass rushers in NFL history with the Atlanta Falcons, but he also is a personal trainer. When he quit the team this past offseason, Greg went and moved into whatever quarters they have at the pass rush camp that Coach Smith has. And he's been there for the last 6 to 8 months training with Coach Smith, all right? He's also put on about 10, 15 pounds of muscle. He looks really good, like huge. So yes, him moving into the interior would work, but I also think he could be a strong side defensive end in a true 4-3 or in a nickel system because of his length and size. But I also see why have this understanding of if he's 6'7", pushing 6'8", he's already pushing 272 right now. He gets in the NFL strength and conditioning program. He may be pushing like 285, 290 here real soon and moving into the interior, going up against short arm guards, less athletic guards would probably work out better for Greg's future. So I can see it working both ways, in my opinion. Another thing I can say is when you watch the NFL, the years of these strictly 3-4 teams is kind of null and void. It used to be where you really had people who kind of looked like a 50 front, nose guard, 2 4 eyes, and 2 stand-up outside linebackers, and everyone had an O lineman in front of them. Well, the game isn't played like that anymore. Almost everybody is in dime, nickel, 4-2-5 on every snap. Now you have your even and odd fronts based on shades and slides. And I don't want to get too football-y in explaining what all of that means, but meaning they slide to the strength and to where the field is, where majority of the field is, and the strength of the defense. So you may have someone who's a 0 and now he switches to a 1 on one side of the center, and that 2 technique now switches to a 3. It just kind of moves the defense, but it's not that 50 front look anymore because everyone's playing 4 or 5 wide. So they don't really have time to be all congested in. So the true traditional 3-4 interior lineman is not what it used to be. It's just interior or edge or your 2. I think Greg Rousseau could play both. It's tough. It's tough because he was a redshirt freshman. When he played at Miami, he was 19. By the time he takes a snap in the NFL, he'll be 21 or pushing 21 here soon. So his redshirt freshman film was impressive. But you got to remember, he was an 18, 19-year-old young man making those plays with 15.5 sacks, 16.5 TFLs. He had to do something to make all those plays, and a lot of it was his length and athleticism. I'm happy that he went and got a personal trainer. I'm not happy he quit on the team, but I'm happy he went and got a personal trainer, and hopefully they can give him some better moves than bull rush and long arm of the Lord and just swim over. You want to be able to do more than that because at the next level, you're going to have people with tight end feet. You're going to have offensive tackles with offensive guard strength. Left and right tackle have become skill positions. They are some of the most important on the football field. And you look at these top tier teams, look at the Chiefs. The reason why they get embarrassed like that is because their left and right tackle, both Pro Bowlers, God. Tom Brady didn't get touched. Why? Because Worf from Iowa was a rookie All-Pro. The other person, I can't think of his name, the left tackle, All-Pro, first team All-Pro. Okay, so those 2 positions are really, really important. If you play edge, those are the type of people you're going to have to go up against every single snap. The best of the best, the 1% of the 1%.
Wow, Tristan Wirfs was a All-Pro as a rookie.
As a rookie.
Wow.
It was amazing. His film was so nice to watch. Oh, God.
You get C.J. John looking for the cornerback, the former 5-star Darian Kendrick from Clemson, who had his off-the-field issues there, was a good player, was named to the All-ACC team.
A lot of that stuff is kind of up in the air, man. Numbers wise, I don't even think we could take any more people. Jared Williams or Isaiah Walker was pushed forward in our count. We took the defensive end from Tennessee, and we took Georgia's Tyrek Stevenson. I understand everybody who sees someone who magically pops in the transfer portal who's of any note and somewhat good, they must be Canes, because we were the ones originally doing it to a high level. I don't know if we have the numbers to do it anymore this year. We kind of took chances and swung at some of the early guys and didn't want to wait. So
James Scott is asking about Daz Worsham and whether he can work his way up the depth chart.
I want to see complete. Hold on, let's see. Let me test myself here. Pope, Wiggins, Harley, Redding, Worsham, young man from Georgia. Wide receiver from Georgia. Can't think of his name off the top of my head. But Restrepo. George. Rambo. Brinson. Few. I already said Wilson. Who else am I missing? We signed 4 receivers this year. I'm missing 2 of them.
Well, you got Brinson, right?
Yeah, I already got
I
Brinson.
wasn't
I already
listening.
got George.
Okay.
Smith, number 9. Smith, the wide receiver. And then there was one more. Jacoby George, Brinson, Smith. What's the other wide receiver we took this year? Y'all help me out. Wide receivers that signed with Miami. We have 10. And if you add Marshall Few, the walk-on, that's 11 wide receivers. Okay. So I don't know who all will get opportunities, who all will get snaps, who all will or won't. But guess what? They're going to have to fight for it. So Pope, Wiggins, Harley just being penciled in starters for this upcoming year, I hope that doesn't happen because they are only one of them decided to show up this year. So when it comes to that. So.
My monitor's dead. I'd check you on those wide receivers. But, we're good. We're good. We're good. All right. We are going to let the wholesome one fill his belly, get something to eat, sustain himself, need some nourishment. Got to keep going. Got to keep the fuel.
It's all good.
In the tank. All right. I appreciate everybody jumping online here.
That's who I was thinking about. I couldn't pick the wide receiver from Georgia off the top of my head. Jeremiah Payton. That was the other one. And he's been null and void at Miami too. You know, he's had either injuries or COVID or whatever. So, wait, hold on. Let's get that last question. 904 Hurricane, please.
Absolutely.
Says Wholesome, how much film have you watched on Tyrek Stevenson? How confident are you in his ability to play outside? Great question. And what's crazy is I'm actually working on a film session for him we released in a couple weeks here. Tyrek Stevenson is kind of like your Patrick Peterson build. He's a bigger guy, and he's like pushing 200 plus 200 size, but he still has enough quickness to play outside. He's strong. He's long. He has such a high football IQ, and that comes from him being a safety for so long. Because at safety, you got to be able to identify all the wide receiver routes and how it works together with what defense you're in to know what holes and how they could attack you based on these routes. Okay, so now you go from having to do that as a one-high safety down to having to do that on just one side of the field at corner. I like what he's going to bring to the table. It's going to bring some stability to it and be able to handle at least one side. The other side is going to have to be between Corey Couch and DJ Ivy. So I like what I see. He's a great tackler. He's a big-time football. He makes such plays on the ball that it's crazy, you know, to see how he does, whether he's swatting the ball late, being able to rake a ball out, coming in and laying the hat, coming down from safety. But he kind of played what Gilbert Frierson plays here at Miami at Georgia. You know, they had him as like a nickel, strong safety striker. He was a situational player. He wasn't able to just be on the field and start for you 100% of the snaps. And that's what he wanted. I even remember when they played Bama in the SEC championship a couple years ago, the Heisman Trophy winner, Desmond Howard, picked Tyrek Stevenson as his key player to watch on defense way back then in the 2018, I want to say, SEC championship. Yep. Okay, so that means you're getting a young man who big-time player. His last game at Georgia, he made some great plays to help get them back in the game. He had a huge interception to get them back the ball to take the lead, you know, help go down and kick that game-winning field goal. So you're getting a player that I'm excited that not everyone's talking about because he is switching positions. There is going to be a lot to learn, but he's going from having to play against the SEC players to having to go up against ACC coastal players. And what I mean by not only that drop in talent, but he also will hopefully he is what Jalen Phillips was for us at defensive end. A player who you see the difference between Greg, who was a 3-star recruit because they didn't know what position he was going to play, who made plays, and a 5-star consistent #1 overall pick, #1 overall player making plays on the team. So now you go from Al Blades and DJ Ivy, those guys, to now Tyrek Stevenson being out there to make plays with Light Skin Warrior over the top, with Gervin Hall over the top, with Amari Carter hopefully being moved to linebacker and getting the heck out of the DB room. Hopefully, with all that coming together, we'll be able to put something together. But I'm super excited for Tyrek Stevenson's play at Miami.
Here's the checklist, folks. Head on over to the Wholesome Ones channel, HOLSUM and the number 1. If you're not subscribed, do that. Check out the latest live streams over there. I know he's going live a couple times a week. Check out the live streams, a breakdown on Miami football like nowhere else. Keep it locked in here. We talk college football multiple times per day, whether live or upload videos, breaking down positional units all over the place. So keep it locked in here. We've got more than 20 team channels now. I'm not going to run through all of them, but if you like pretty much the top of the line of college football, all the big name teams, we've pretty much got them all covered. Check out those channels. And for one of two reasons, either you like that team, like if you like Oregon, go subscribe to the Oregon channel. Or if you just want to
wait, time out. You got an Oregon channel?
This is our rundown, Wholesome One.
Yeah, you got to tell me now. You got to tell me right now. You know I love Mario. You know
okay.
Mario was my guy.
Okay, this is what we've got. We've got in the ACC, we've got Miami, Clemson, Tallahassee, and North Carolina. We've got Notre Dame. We've got Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, Nebraska, Wisconsin out of the Big Ten. We've got Oklahoma and Texas out of the Big 12. We've got Oregon and USC, Pac-12. We've got an SEC channel. Then we've got Alabama, Auburn, LSU, Texas A&M, Tennessee, Georgia, and Florida.
And they all have their own channels now.
Yep.
Wow.
We're blasting it out.
MarkRogersTV, Oregon?
It's the voice of college football, Oregon, the voice of college football, USC, etc. Now, I am not going to promise, just the most remarkable viewing experience everywhere right this second, but we're pretty strong. In addition to Miami, Ohio State, where we've been strong for a long time, we're strong on that SEC channel. We're strong.
So it's Oregon football at the voice of college football.
Yes, it is. I believe that's the way we've got it.
I'm definitely sharing this.
Yes, we do.
You know I love Oregon, so I'm sharing this on my channel.
Well, you know what the key number is there. It's
almost
1,000. So if you can help us get to 1,000, Wholesome One, that would be phenomenal.
Yeah, at 858, you're right there, buddy.
We're getting there.
Goodness gracious.
We're doing really well right now with Michigan and Nebraska in terms of views. So we're going to stay after that.
Okay. Yeah, man. What a great one. What a great one. I would, Mark, if for our next show, if nothing else breaks, let's do a Canes to the draft show. Let's
awesome.
talk about them.
Let's do it.
Get some NFL views in here.
That'd be phenomenal.
All right, because I already got a breakdown on all 4 of them, and I want to bring it to your channel. So let's do it.
Let's do it. Wholesome One, get fueled up. We appreciate you stopping by. The Wholesome One does this right after a full day's work. Comes right here. There you go. So need we say more? This is how much he respects what we do, and this is what a good guy he is, just to contribute here in the middle of his day when he is going full throttle constantly. So Wholesome One, we appreciate it. You know that. And all the love and support and prosperity to you and yours and your channel and everything you've got going in your career.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's always a blessing to come here and speak on those Canes and represent that you. Much love. Go Canes.
See you, Wholesome One. We are headed directly from here to the SEC channel. I'm going to go live and I'm going to answer your questions on SEC football at the SEC channel and take your phone calls as well. So we're going to have the phone lines open on the SEC channel. Coming up here, I had posted that for a scheduled live stream at 6 o'clock Eastern time. We, of course, are late. That's because we hung out here a little bit longer, but it was well worth it, definitely, to get the take on Miami football from the Wholesome One. All right. And I'm also going to be on the Miami channel within the next few days. So be looking out for that notification to answer comments and questions, and just go through your comments to the channel. I want to catch up on those. All right. Good stuff, everyone. Appreciate that. Again, special thanks go out to Ronan. I don't even think Ronan was here, but I'm going to dedicate this show to Ronan because he would tell you more than anybody else, or as much as anybody else, David Knight included. He's caught the vision, catch the vision, understand what we're doing here. And Sasha, Mike Williams, BGPO Football Funk, of course, DeAndre, Miami Flow as well. Thank you so much for the contributions. 904 Hurricane, glad you could make it as well as James Scott, Rod the Farva, all sorts of good people on here. We will see you soon.